Hello, everybody, and welcome to First Ring Daily. I'm happy he's not. Actually, I'm Brad. He's Paul. We're here at Ignite for day 2. How's it going, Paul?
What do you mean by that, Brad?
Paul, on a scale of 1 to healthy, how healthy are you right now?
-11.
Thank you. Thank you. Quality choices being made here at Ignite 2017. Paul, if there were things that were going to be announced today that we were unaware of, would Office 2019
have been on the list?
Yeah.
Nope.
But that's what they did.
That's true.
For those not familiar, Microsoft still has on-premises software, and they are releasing Office 2019 second half of 2018. Is that correct?
That's right. Yeah, preview mid-year and final. And it's not just a product, right? It's a bunch of things. There's a family of software coming.
Whole bunch of good stuff coming. And realistically, if you're running Office 365 and then you go look at what's coming in Office 2019, there's nothing there for you. Like nothing. It's really what they just called a snapshot. They took a snapshot of what Office 365 was, and now they're going to bring it to on-premises users. And that's really the story, I think, how Office is going to be handled going forward.
I think the tagline is yesterday's software today.
Anyways. The good thing about this is that if you are an on-premises user, this means that Office is going to be around for at least 10 years, right? That's
that's the point of it. So I guess the 2016 release is coming out of support, mainstream support in 2020.
Yeah.
I think it was tied to that. So
yeah.
By the way, this could be the final version of on-prem Office when you think about it, just given the schedule.
Yeah, you got to think about where we would be in 2027, 2028. Do you see Microsoft really? Well, hopefully I'm not sitting next to him.
I see myself not caring what Microsoft is doing in 2028, but sure.
But you can imagine at that point they're going to be like, look, if you're not in our cloud or a cloud or whatever exists at that point, you're going to be struggling here. And so that's what a lot of people are thinking. Microsoft isn't really ready to talk about it. We had a bunch of meetings today, and I said, hey, you guys are coming out with this next year. Is it the last version of Office?
Oh, they're never going to say that.
Right. Well, after he got done choking down saying, hey, we haven't even shipped that version yet, they successfully dodged the question.
We literally just made up this software today. We have no idea when we're going to kill it.
He's joking, but I could actually see them saying, because that's what they do, is they quite literally say, here's a feature freeze, and then they ingest it for on-premises, and then they kick it out the door.
I also talked to the Skype, or whatever we're calling them, Teams guys today, and they, of course, are releasing a Skype for Business on-prem server at the same time, and not coincidentally, it's part of this family.
Yeah.
Those things are all going to be released around the same time period.
Yeah, actually, looking back, we should have picked up on this.
Yeah.
Why would they release Skype for Business server just on its own? Yeah. And then I was like, oh, yeah, but now here's the whole Office thing.
Yep.
So, OneDrive, Paul?
Yeah, so there was no keynote today for some reason, but they started eking out a little bits of news over the course of the day. And so one of the big ones was actually a bunch of small news about OneDrive, but a bunch of things which kind of together add up to a big thing. And obviously we know that Files on Demand is coming in the Windows 10 client with the Fall Creators Update on October 17th, but there was a bunch of other stuff that they talked about, including a new web UI, which finally looks semi-attractive and colorful. A files restore feature, which actually looks kind of nice, where you can go back and say, I want this version of the file, not just from a particular day, but down to the minute. Only in the web, which is a little strange. And today, I believe they have some kind of basic recycle bin file recovery stuff, but this is a nice dashboard type deal. New mobile clients and a bunch of stuff. I mean, there's probably 27 different things.
Yeah. There was actually quite a bit announced today. I'm honestly really surprised that they didn't have an event.
They should have like a SharePoint event or something.
Maybe they should. Yeah. Because there was actually a ton of things going on in the SharePoint world, Paul, which I know is pretty high up on your radar.
I literally did not pay attention to any of this and cannot speak to it at all.
Yeah, actually, what's more interesting to me about the SharePoint stuff is if you went back about 4 years ago, I remember a very relatively high-level exec at a company not named Microsoft said, you know what, SharePoint is kind of becoming the Lotus Notes of the world. It's like a lot of people are just using it because they have to, and they can't get out of it, and they're just
plus
stuck.
It was hairy and ugly at the time, too.
No, SharePoint.
Yeah. Yikes.
Well, anyways, so SharePoint is actually kind of a hot thing right now. If you went to the session today, I think it was one of their largest sessions that had overflow seating, And Microsoft looks like they're actually coming back here with SharePoint. They announced that 300,000 organizations are now using it. And I believe if you go back into the spring, that number was 250,000. And that's for SharePoint Online. They told me usage by existing customers grew 90% year over year. And 65% of all SharePoint seats are now online. 35% are on premises. So that's actually...
It's amazing.
I mean, to them, they wouldn't admit this, but I'm like, do you guys look at that 35% now as the legacy user?
Oh, totally.
I mean, they have to.
But it's so much easier to implement this in the cloud. I mean, from an IT perspective, right? I mean, I'm sure that just the ease of use is a big part of that.
Right, and that's realistically what they're highlighting, because they say they have 300% growth in year-over-year file syncing between on OneDrive. And they said actually a lot of their their growth is coming from SMB, and they're getting a little bit in enterprise as well. I would imagine, just hedging here, that of those 35%, I would bet enterprise is probably up there because they've got the infrastructure to support on premises.
But they are killing Yammer, right? Because, Yammer.
Okay. Yammer is not dead. I said, hey guys, what's going on with Yammer? And I think I offended the individual, if I'm completely candid here.
You did a lot of this today.
I did. I've offended many people in Microsoft meetings because Paul and I, we don't go in there and say, hey, tell me 10 great things about Yammer today. I said, hey, what's the future of Yammer? Because you guys really aren't doing anything.
Right.
And so here's their reframing Yammer. I got to read in and see how they're digging into this. But he says we're pivoting, for lack of a better term, what Yammer is. They're looking at Teams as your inner circle communications platform. Right? That makes sense. Teams is extremely hot.
Sure.
They're ingesting Skype for Business in there. Everybody loves Teams, except for the people that don't love Teams, obviously. And they're looking at Yammer as being the outer group that...
The outer group. Let's enumerate some of the other groups that are not mentioned here, like the people collaborating through email and Outlook.
Right.
Or the people collaborating through SharePoint proper.
Yep.
OneDrive for Business.
Yep.
What am I missing? Skype for Business, which I know is going away.
Yep.
So they basically have, about 117 different collaboration solutions.
Yep.
And they're consolidating 2 of them.
Yep.
Okay. Because one of the questions I asked the Teams guys was about that. Do you see Teams kind of maybe becoming the Uber client for Office down the road? It's a modern platform, completely new app built from the ground up to be a web app. I mean, what do you think?
Yeah, this is one of those things that I think the writing is on the wall, but Microsoft really doesn't want to talk about it yet or fully diverge their strategy. They said they had a vision session about the future of Yammer, and it wasn't a tombstone, so there clearly is something to this. But unfortunately, they're not really being clear. They said, hey, you can now ingest Yammer content into SharePoint. And I said, well, does that mean SharePoint is going to take over the role of Yammer? And he's like, no, that's not it.
It should be.
And then I said, are you going to build on a module onto Teams that would allow you to do similar things to SharePoint or to Yammer? And they're like, no, we're not going to do that. And I'm like, well, what do you... Like, so then you're going to have to go into another platform besides the 2 that you're using. And to qualify that, the very beginning of this conversation, they said, we want to have 2 communication platforms. We want to have Outlook, which is kind of the older way, and we want to have Teams.
Right.
And then...
That works.
But then they're saying Yammer is this outer ring, and I was like, well, you just told me 3. And
I think
now you know why they don't talk to me.
Yeah, Microsoft has a hard time of letting go of things. I think this is the problem, this is an area where, frankly, they could be more aggressive.
Sure.
There's a lot of overlap here. There's a lot of supporting people who like to do things the old-fashioned way, and then we're going to support the young guys, the millennials who come in and they want to do chat-based collaboration, whatever. But they really need to button this up.
They do. And this is a perfect example of where Paul and I are trying to figure out what they're actually doing, and then you ask the questions based on the information they've given us, and we don't quite know. And that's when we start to say, well, what really is the future of the platform? I'm sure they will email us after this podcast and harass us about how it's not dead.
I think both of us asked the same question today. This was with regards to Skype for Business, but it's sort of the same thing where you're getting rid of this because the brand is bad, right? And then there's this long list of reasons why they're getting rid of it that have nothing to do with the brand. And but you're getting rid of it because the brand is bad.
Yeah.
And Yammer just seems superfluous in a way. It seems like the type of thing that maybe should just be integrated directly into SharePoint, and that's just SharePoint.
Most people don't know this, but Microsoft likes to try to use their own platforms. And there was a good 3 to 4 years where they would invite all of us to Yam Jams.
Oh, boy.
And you can imagine how well getting an email that says, hey, Brad, come join our Yam Jam. And I looked at Paul and I said, Paul, are they really using these terms? And then he looked and said, I got the same email. It was not a mistake. So anyways, that's enough about Yammer, because that's probably the most that's been said about them in a while. Paul, do you know what Microsoft Teams was almost called? I learned this today. I did not know all this.
Nope.
So at one point, actually...
Slack, was it almost called Slack?
At one point, no, actually at one point it was called Skype Teams. I had some documentation that called it that. But they also considered Skype Spaces.
Awesome.
And Teams Spaces.
Ugh. Spaces.
Yeah.
Why Spaces?
Because that's where you put your face. I don't know. It's a space you do stuff. Like, it's collaboration.
I think Spaces was the old MSN blogging platform, wasn't it? MSN Spaces?
Yeah, that sounds about right.
I think so.
Maybe they're just trying to reuse
That's a terrible name. Also, anything with Skype in it is a terrible name.
Such as Skype for Business. Skype for Business.
For Business would be a better name than Skype for Business.
Yeah, well, Link was a better name.
Office Communications?
It was a better name. Anyways.
By the way, I will say this. I should say, to be fair to Microsoft, occasionally, you know, yesterday I referred to this stuff as universal communications, but actually they're not using that term anymore because a year has gone by and they have to change the name. So now what they're calling it is intelligent communications.
Yep.
But the point behind this is that they're using machine learning and AI because they're using that in everything now. That's their new thing. And they're going to allow you to have more intelligent communications, literally. So the point of this is, you know, you're having a meeting, and so you can go look at what the content of the meeting is and learn more about it. You can see who's going to be at the meeting and learn more about them on LinkedIn and through some other sources, depending on how integrated they are into your system. And that's actually kind of cool. It will also do some intelligent assistant type things where maybe there's an action item in a meeting and they'll remind you to follow up on that at a later time. Or maybe you missed a meeting and that meeting will be transcribed and, if needed, translated. And if your name is brought up, you'll actually get a notification that says at minute 45 of this meeting your name came up, and you might want to go listen to that, which, by the way, would happen a lot with us if you weren't there.
Wow.
Yep. Seriously.
Wow.
I think you might want to listen to this one. The rot was going off on you a little bit. No, but that stuff is kind of interesting, right? I mean, it's because you know, AI, machine learning, you kind of hear those terms. You're like, yeah, whatever. But actually, they're doing some intelligent stuff with it, as the name suggests. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
AI has been everywhere at Microsoft. Actually, I just came from a meeting with them. One of the things that they are doing, or they can do with AI now, is they can look at topographical images and determine what's land, what's water, what's a road, and all that. And that doesn't sound really impressive. And he said, you know what's really impressive is when an area gets hit by a hurricane, we can fly a drone over it, and then we can actually tell what areas are damaged and actually send resources to that individual area almost instantaneously now.
We don't have meetings of this scope at our little company.
We could get a drone, but I don't think we would be doing topographical maps.
No, I would be chasing a cat around the neighborhood.
Speaking of chasing a cat around the neighborhood, one of the things we do every time we travel is we create this behind-the-scenes video, and Paul and I spent many hours at Disney World, and I think we have a little teaser clip here we can play of us.
Oh, you can't hear it, though.
You can with the headset.
Okay. So, in case it wasn't clear, Brad hit a child with the car. Now, well, hold on. You're laughing because that is obviously hilarious.
And factual, I might add. It was completely factual.
The good news is the child was in another car, so we didn't have to, like, back up or anything. But it was like, wow. Well, you laughed at the hitting a child, and then the backing up was too far for you. Okay. If people are, anyway.
Go on about murder.
I've lost track of this conversation. So, but anyway, the point is, you're so busy trying to knock the Surface device onto the track that you literally ran into a child.
At about 10 miles an hour. Yeah.
Yep. Brad Sams, ladies and gentlemen.
I would tell you that I'm sugarcoating this, but this is actually what happened. The person in front of us was having, it had to have been a small child, and they couldn't, like, fully press the accelerator down.
It was a small child. Yeah, a little blonde girl.
Does she have a family?
I don't know. We got out of there as quickly as we could.
Anyways, so that video hopefully, I'm thinking by the end of the week it actually should be live.
Yeah, yeah, because we're getting out of here pretty early this week.
Yeah, I think so.
There's some water involved in this video. I'll just leave it at that.
And ducks.
There are ducks. We found some innovative uses for a Surface device.
Yep. Anyways, Paul, I learned more about Bing for Business. How about you?
Sure.
No, actually, so Bing for Business, first off, I told them I thought that was a very bad name because it sounds like you're trying to use Bing to drive more business, which could not be further from the truth.
Right.
Actually, it's more of an internal thing. But what's kind of neat about this is I thought that Bing for Business, you actually had to like set it up. Like you'd have to go in there and put your links and all that information in. It's actually couldn't be further from the truth. If you're an on-premise user, please just stop paying attention because this is going to be relevant. But if you're an Office 365 user, Bing for Business is actually just a toggle that you turn on. And then because it has access to your email, your SharePoint or your OneDrive, your contacts and everything else, it actually automatically creates all that information and ingests it into Bing for when you're searching. So it's actually very, very simple to use. This is so unlike Microsoft.
Sorry, when you were saying that, my wife called me and my phone buzzed in my pocket and I looked at my wrist to see what it was. And I think I'm just going to take this call if that's okay.
Bing for Business, everyone. Bing for Business.
Amazing.
Anyways, speaking of Bing for Business, which has nothing to do with it, Paul, I think that Invoke speaker is actually going to launch really soon.
Do you?
I do.
Why do you think that?
Because they told me it's going to launch very soon.
Is anybody going to buy this thing, the Invoke speaker? Well, I don't want to mock you, Gary, but I'm going to. So, no. I'm just yeah, no, I'm probably going to get one too.
Yeah.
Actually.
Here's the interesting thing. This didn't really dawn on me until today about the Invoke. Invoke. How, like, what's the competitive advantage of this device, right? We have the Amazon device that's been out and has hundreds of thousands of plugins. The Google device has been out and has been very well received. You know what you know what this device is going to do? It's going to connect directly into Office 365.
Oh, yes. Yes.
I don't know why I never thought of this, but it's going to have something where Amazon comes up short is it's not going to know your work schedule. It's not going to be able to tap into any of that information. Same with Google. Yep. And so Microsoft's angle with this is like, look, this can also be an Office device. You can put this thing in your office to set up out-of-office messages. Right. You can check your email. You can set your calendar. You can reserve conference rooms on this thing. And so when I heard that, I was like, yeah, maybe there actually is a place for this. Again, if you're a consumer user of Microsoft, maybe this isn't the greatest pitch. But for the enterprise,
I like it. Or even for smaller businesses that are on Office 365. Back in January, you must have been there. We talked to Ryan Gavin from Cortana and asked him about the strategy. And you guys are so far behind. And what are you doing? And what's the plan? And you know, the way he described it was that we want Cortana to be essential, right? And what essential means is if it's gone one day, you really miss it. You know, you need it to be there every single day. And that part of being essential from Microsoft's perspective is that Office 365 kind of work-based productivity stuff.
Sure.
And there is something to that. I mean, I believe on the Google Home, you could probably configure an Office 365 email account through the Gmail client and maybe get that stuff through there. But it's also a pure consumer play. And it is interesting. I think as enthusiasts, we sort of look at the Invoke speaker and think about it in terms of Alexa devices or Google Home or whatever. But the truth is, it may make a lot more sense in the environments you're describing, which is a work-based device. Yeah.
And you can also see how they could tie integrations in between that device and a Surface Hub. There's actually a lot of use cases in the enterprise world for this type of a machine. And so I have to imagine if like this seems to make so much sense. I know Microsoft isn't going to pitch it this way, but that has to be their angle of how they're going to get market share. Right. So that is coming soon. Nobody would tell us, but here's how it would work. I'd be like, hey, you know, we'd talk about it Bing for Business, and then I'd segue into this Invoke thing. I'd be like, hey, when is that thing coming? And then we'd go, it'll be out soon. And then the PR person would like take their claws off their leg because they don't let us talk without PR people in the room, unfortunately. It's unfortunate.
I agree.
We should start bringing alcohol to those things. All right.
Yes.
Well, Creators Update rollout.
Yeah, so every month I get this data from AdDuplex that looks at Windows device usage out in the world. They've been looking at Surface devices recently, which I find very interesting. And the two things that stick out for me from this month's information is that the Creators Update is on 72.5% of all Windows 10 PCs out in the world. which is high, and you'd kind of expect that. We're about a month away from the next release. But actually, at this time, in the rollout period for the Windows 10 anniversary update, that version was, where's the number? 91.2%. So actually, they really have kind of slowed it down. And in preparation for our trip to Disney, I brought an older Surface device back up to life painfully and slowly, and found that that thing was on the anniversary update. I spent an entire day trying to update this device, and it never actually got the Creators Update. It got a number of updates, slowly and poorly.
Did I hear you correct? I haven't read this information yet. Did I hear you correctly and say that this rollout has been going slower?
That's right.
And didn't they tell us it was going to be faster?
Actually, what they told us is that it was fully available about a month and a half ago, I guess.
Yeah.
I think it was August.
To everyone.
Yeah, so fully available is about 72.5%. The other thing that's very interesting to me, and this is contrary to my opinions about what was going to happen, is that in the couple of months since the Surface Laptop and the new Surface Pro have shipped, the Surface Pro has dramatically outsold the Surface Laptop. I sort of expected it to be very close, and I expected the laptop to be the mainstream device. But as of today, 5.8% of all Surface devices in use are the new Surface Pro, compared to just 1.7% for Surface Laptop. So it's roughly, what, three times the usage. I'm really surprised by that.
Yeah, that actually is, because we have been hearing that the Surface Laptop had actually been doing pretty well.
Yeah. Well, by the way, I think it is doing pretty well, but it kind of speaks to the ongoing popularity of the classic Surface Pro form factor, I guess. So.
And the other thing you got to qualify that too is it could be doing really well compared to this machine, right? If Microsoft could do, hey, look, it's selling great. If they look at how well the or how poorly the Surface Book sold, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, these numbers are interesting because these devices are actually brand new and they only run Windows 10, right? And so this information is against the wider body of Surface devices that are running Windows 10, basically.
Sure.
So some of those devices have been around for a long time. So this particular device, I don't have the number in front of me, but it is a very low number because that device is very expensive and they haven't sold that many. Some percentage of them are on Windows 10, and so I actually don't have the data in front of me, but these numbers are more interesting because they literally are for Windows 10. This is all of those devices, right? And so it's interesting. And the other thing that came out here is Microsoft in the Windows 10 space is the 8th biggest maker of PCs that run Windows 10, 2.8% share. So if there are 500 million PCs running Windows 10, I believe it's probably higher than that by now. That's about 14 million Surface PCs running Windows 10. So this possibly, we don't know the percentage not running Windows 10, but it's got to be pretty low. I can't imagine too many people, the Surface, are still on Windows 8.1. There could be some. But, I mean, I think you might assume that that's 2/3 or more of all Surface devices in use.
Yeah, I think that's fair. So 14 million roughly.
Yeah.
Do you consider that a good or bad number?
Well, it's better than zero.
That's
a
true statement.
I mean, to give you the obvious comparison, we know that Apple sells 4-point-something million Macs every quarter, that 2/3 of those are portable Macs. We don't have the exact breakdown, but, Mac Pros are probably 50-ish% or maybe a little bit less than 50%. So, over the course of a year, you might say that's less than 14 million. I mean, so, they're in there.
Yeah. Actually, putting in that perspective, that's actually seems completely reasonable.
Yeah, it's not bad.
So, this next topic here will show up in the behind-the-scenes footage as well, because Paul could not write a serious article, and he almost died of laughter because he wanted to use cat GIFs to explain quantum computing.
I came really close to writing that article. I tweeted it, and that was literally the beginning of the article. The article was called "Microsoft's Quantum Computing Explained," and then the first sentence said, how did I write it? It just is something I would like to write about, but I have no idea what it means. So here's some kitten GIFs instead. And I was literally going to just put kitten GIFs in a web article and be like, I can't write about this,
Yep.
I ended up going with a more traditional article, but I still explained it pretty poorly because the truth is I have a hard time even understanding this. This is like Stephen Hawking stuff to me. I just don't get it.
Yeah, I went from a meeting talking about AI, which is on the fringe of my capability of understanding. I mean, I get what they're doing and how that's working, to a quantum computing, and I'm like, what's next, guys? Like,
I'm gonna read to you from my notes with these people because I had no idea what they were talking about. And by the way, to be clear, I probably met with people from Microsoft about 1,000 times in my life. I have never apologized this many times in one meeting. Like, my notes read like it's crazy. It's like we're thinking about qubits, geometries that get deformed, geometries that are immune to deformation but are stable. We take the math of topology to physics with Myrona, I don't know what that meant, parts splitting an electron into a string with non-local properties so that they can interact with both at the same time, not just one at a time.
That makes perfect sense.
This is a random collection of words. I wrote them as I heard them. And I swear to God, I didn't do this in this. I had a meeting one time with Microsoft where actually it was with the Windows Mobile folks, you'll be delighted to know. And I was, the iPhone had come out, it was killing it, and I asked them how they were going to fight back against the iPhone. And I'm typing away on my computer, and the woman said, the iPhone proves something we've known for a long time, that consumers would really embrace an innovative touch-based smartphone. And I stopped typing, and I thought about it for a second, and I was like, am I going to be rude to this person? And then I said, do you even hear the words that are coming out of your mouth? And in this case, I kept typing because I knew if I stopped, I would just lose it completely. I have no idea what they're talking about. And they would just say things, and I'd look at them like, you've got to be kidding me. I'm sorry, I have no idea what you're talking about. So I'm going to go write about smartphones and Invoke speakers and stuff that's really simple, because that is literally all my brain can handle. It was embarrassing.
Was that the first time today, or just?
It was one event in a continuum of events.
Okay.
Corn maze.
Corn maze. Paul is obsessed with corn mazes, one, because they're near his house, and he now thinks he can use quantum computing to
I actually think
them.
my house might be the end of a corn maze. I think that's how addresses work in Pennsylvania.
People just roaming through your backyard.
Yeah, Amish people and deers walk by and stuff. It's nice.
Did you just say deers with an S on the end?
I did. I'm embarrassed by that. We didn't have wildlife where I used to live.
You also didn't have barges.
I'm like, there's a really tall cat in the backyard. That's a deer. Oh yeah. Yep, that's a deer.
Gosh. Is there anything else you're looking forward to, Paul, at Ignite?
I'm looking forward to a nap.
Why is that, Paul? You beacon of health, you.
Please don't make me laugh. I had a late night last night. I was hanging out with some Microsoft folks against my better judgment, and now I'm paying the price. But tonight we'll do it again because actually...
I was going to say, it's exactly what we're doing.
Because if there's one thing I'm consistent at, it's not learning lessons. So we're having a Windows Weekly meetup tonight at 6 p.m., I think, 6 to 8, 6 to 9.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
At the World of Beer, the Dr. Phillips location. Make sure you go to the right one. So if you go there and none of us are there, that's why. I believe it's the one that's closest to here. I think there are 3 locations in the Orlando area. If you see me drinking like water with lemon in it, you'll know why.
Well, the other thing Paul's not telling you is he showed up on Saturday. He's like, yeah, I've got a slight cough. And Mary Jo and I have both noted frequently that cough is now sounding a lot more congested.
I think it's getting better.
I think it's turning into pneumonia, but
I think I've met the thing that's going to kill me, and we just need to deal with that.
Is that me?
And it's not you for a change.
It's not you. One last question here, Paul.
Yep.
Actually, maybe many more questions.
Okay.
What laptop are you using? Because obviously you're not using a Surface.
Yeah, no, I wanted to use something that actually works. This is a ThinkPad X1. Again, you're okay.
Like to $5, punch Paul in the face.
You're okay with the car thing. No, I'm kidding. I'm reviewing this. So this is a ThinkPad X1 Yoga. Yep. Which is, the transforming version of the...
Does it go all the way back?
It does go all the way back. It's got a weird little... yeah, you probably can't hear it, but
I saw it like...
It kind of pops. Yeah, it's strange.
I was like, I can make it go all the way back.
It's like a lobster. When you crack a lobster back, it's got a weird little... Why do you ask me?
I was just curious
because
you brought a different machine than you were talking about previous to this event bringing.
Yeah, no, this is... I love the Surface Book. This is a... It's a near ideal size for me. The screen size, the keyboard is perfect. The trackpad is awesome. I wish the screen didn't detach because I think that's the source of a lot of the problems. In fact, I can see little metal bits in that seam. It's not.
You can see through there.
Yeah. It's too bad.
Yeah, I don't know. I quite like it. The GPU in here is.
Yep.
Well, it's better than that GPU. It's better than
the non-existent GPU in this one. Yeah, that's true.
You got anything else for today, Paul?
Well, no, but we need to do some giveaways, right?
We do.
So we've got the 2 hats. Is that right? 2 hats? Tina, could you please? Tina, could you wake up?
We know you like bidding for business so much, Tina.
Sorry, George. It was two hats. Yep.
So
we have 2 hats and a book.
Donated by me because I couldn't cancel my Amazon pre-order.
No, it's
Schrodinger's cat. Schrodinger's
Also,
cat.
they said the phrase von Neumann machine to me today, so I had to look that one up. It turns out that's a computer. That's all that is. In fact, they referred to things we would call computers as like at least 5 different things. It was like because these alien technology people from the future, computers are like these. It's like a loom to them. It's like this ain't it's a stupid, silly old thing, and they have all these different words for it. We just call that a computer, not a von Neumann machine.
Can you pick a name this time without throwing the cards all on the ground?
Yes. Could you spread them out a little bit for me?
Would you like a cup of water?
Yes. Actually, that would be nice. So what is this for? This is a hat?
2 hats, and then we'll do the book.
I know, we did. Oh, do the hat first. Charles Hare.
There we go. There's
Come on down, as we say.
There's also a locket of his hair inside.
That's a good way to give him a hat. Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you. All right, grab another one.
Yep. Zwink. Marco Browse? Is it Browse? How do you say it? Oh, jeez. Are you Dutch? Yes, you can tell. So, thank you. Congratulations. No, I didn't mean that in a negative way. They're the nicest people on earth. Why would you contort that?
You're so mean.
I love the Dutch. You know that. I go there all the time. All right, maybe you should pick this one.
Just because you don't want to embarrass somebody else's name again?
Well, I'm not very good at this.
We know. Mark McClure. There you go. You get the book and your name tag back. Reduce, reuse, recycle.
Thank you.
Awesome. All right, everybody. Well, as always, we appreciate everybody coming out, watching today here in person and on live. And as a reminder, we do this every single day for and against our will. Thanks for tuning in. This has been another episode of First Ring Daily.